Hey, this is Politics with Laura. Politics with Laura. How are you doing? How are you doing? Whether if it's in the morning, afternoon, or evening, how you doing? I got a good one for you. I decided to wait, and I'm glad I did because Ashleigh Merchant. Yes, Ashleigh. Ashleigh Merchant. This lady right here, she did this. Danny Spiegel, I'm telling you, Ashleigh, she just brought it. She was like, this is what happened. I gotta say, I was totally wrong about her, but I can admit when I'm wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong. And I was totally wrong about Ashleigh Merchant. Oh, there was so much that she wasn't able to do. And I understand why. I get it now. I'm just like, what are you doing, Ashleigh? You're over there throwing bricks, building people houses. Yeah, that was me. But she went on Megyn Kelly and she told it all. And we're going to go through that. And I already viewed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to play the whole hour. And no, I'm not going to do that. No. I'm just going to get to the important parts and then, talk a little bit about it because there was so much that she said. I'm like, that makes sense. I don't get why Judge McAfee did that. Don't get it. I don't get why Terrence did that. What? She told it. And just when you think that Fannie Willis, but before I even go there, oh my goodness. Just when you think that AOC can't make a fool out of herself, she takes it to a whole new level. Yes, she does. Oh my goodness. AOC. Oh man. AOC and Amber Heard are running neck to neck on being a fool. Oh my goodness. You got to see this for yourself. You can't make this up. You can't make it up. But here, AOC is telling this gentleman who enforces the law. You can't make this up. Just listen. Oh no.
Switch to H&R Block and you don't just get a tax pro. You get a tax partner that never lets you down.
This is not
Work with the same pro with an average of 10 years experience year in, year out. It's better with Block.
Earlier today, the Department of Justice, joined by 15 states.
Oh no. What happened to AOC making a fool out of herself? Okay. I'm totally upset. I'm totally upset. AOC was making a fool out of herself. She was telling him that RICO was not even a law. You're making stuff up. Oh, man. Okay. All right. I digress. Let's go ahead and get to it. Let's get to it. Ashleigh Merchant and Megyn, Megyn Kelly. And I got to say, this was a good interview. Now, no matter how you may feel about Megyn Kelly, you may think, oh, she's old. Oh, she's a racist. She's whatever it is. Put that aside. Okay, we can do that. We can put that aside. Actually, both sides. And listen to the interview because she gave a great interview. And Ashleigh Merchant was dynamite. I just thought that it was a good interview. Very good. Okay, here we go.
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to,
boards and groups to consider the many unanswered questions in this case. My God. So what was your takeaway after reading all that, but the judge not bouncing her?
Okay. What she read was Judge Scott McAfee's decision. And she read a great portion of it, but we're not going to go through that because we've already been through it.
Shocked. I was very surprised. But reading that order that you just read, I mean, if as a lawyer, if someone wrote those words about you, it's not a good thing. So that would very much upset me if that order had been written about me. But, I was surprised that the judge did not go all the way. He sort of played it down the middle, split the baby, very Solomon-esque of him. So that was a little bit surprising, but I do appreciate that he made those factual findings. Obviously, we think that it was an actual conflict of interest. We think that just the appearance is enough. But I don't think that the fight is over. We're going to file an appeal, and we're going to continue to pursue this and hopefully get what we sought in the beginning, and that is a neutral prosecutor to actually look at this case from a neutral, non-political.
Okay, now what she is not saying is that the way Scott McAfee wrote the decision, he laid everything out for an appeal and basically said, go ahead, file for appeal, have my decision overturned. It's all right. I have no problem with that. You go right ahead, do what you do. And I thought, all right, okay.
Non-biased lens.
We're going to get into that because she's still talking. Even though the judge threatened to gag her, she's still out there talking in a way that sounds very pointed against Trump and the other defendants and very political. She's running for re-election, but that doesn't allow you to make anyone's individual case political or to comment on it over and over. She can't stop herself, Ashleigh. It's amazing how she seems to sort of own her bias. Have you seen the latest remarks she made at this women's event?
No, I haven't, but I still haven't gotten over the church remarks. And, Megan, when someone says that Jesus himself told them to prosecute this case, how do you defend against that? I mean, literally, that's when I hear these, I'm like, how do you get into court and say, okay, well, she's got Jesus on her side. She's saying, told her to bring these charges against my client. That's insane. I've never dealt with that, and we're in court and they're talking about, oh, well, there's no case that guides us. Like, of course there's not. Nobody says this. This doesn't happen. People don't take to the pulpit and, say that Jesus has told them to prosecute, to bring these charges, that she's doing God's work, that she's following his playbook, asking for guidance since she is following his plan. I mean, that's a very interesting take and a very tough thing to.
Okay, before she goes any further, that bothered me. She's saying, God told me to do this. Oh, okay, you know that there are two factions here. There's God and the devil, okay? Now you're over there doing all these sinful acts. Adultery is one of the 10 commandments, and you're saying God told. Okay, I'm going to calm down on that one. Fanny is a complete mess.
To guard against, but no, I haven't heard the most recent remarks at the Women's Day event. I'd love to hear them.
I'll give you a little sample. This was an event, it was held on March 10th, so it was before the ruling, but she knew she was in hot water and might get bounced and was not showing a lot of discretion in the way she spoke about herself, her role, and so on. You tell me who she's talking about here in SOT 3.
Or are we standing in a time when you are being asked to vote for sexual assaulters? Are we standing in a time where you're being asked to vote for men that are comfortable disrespecting women? Are we standing in a time where they ask you to stand for people who want to impact your reproductive rights?
Wait a minute. Wait. Okay, wait. Are we standing in a time? Are we standing in a time? Let me go ahead and do this full screen. Fanny and her foolishness. Are we standing in a time that we're looking for a woman who will go ahead and be with another woman's man with no problem? Are we standing in a time to where we would take taxpayers' money to pay the man that we're having an inappropriate contact with and actually committing adultery with? Are we standing in a time? Come on, Fanny. This is outrageous. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to begin with this stuff. Oh my goodness, Fanny. I don't know where to begin.
Okay. Sexually assaulting politicians. I don't know. That sounds like somebody who's been in the news. And then once again, she decided to raise color, her race, as an issue in discussing her detractors. By the way, she specifically mentioned conservatives, but here's a bit of it in SOT 4.
I hope every day they call her name, they understand for a Black woman, threats and lies will never deter our work. I hope they know I don't care what they say or do. I'm going to still be standing here doing what is right for my community.
So is she...
Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, okay. Fanny, where does this foolishness end? Now, look, Black people, Black women, specifically Black women. Look, we have to call our sisters out when they are doing wrong and go out into public and portray themselves as victims when they are the victimizers. She's talking about Black women and racism, but she's not talking about how she took the money for the Black children and spent the money someplace else. She didn't give a damn about none of those people. Not one. And she has a nerve now that she's being investigated. Now all of a sudden, Black women, Black community, Woo! Oh my goodness. The level, I don't have the words for this level of BS. And then to cause further divide by bringing race into it. Fanny is one of those people that has the cultural part of being full of crap and will lie in a church, okay, to the congregation. Because in front of God, Jesus Christ, the pastor, saying all that stuff, while everything that is coming out of her mouth, she has a forked tongue in lies. Let me leave it there. Oh my God.
Always like this? Making everything about race and getting personal on the defendants she prosecutes?
Yes, but I mean, she has been like that most of her career. I've got to say that this did surprise me. She's known me for 20 years. She knows I'm not racist. She knows that I'm not all of those things. So it did surprise me that she had those personal attacks. When the church speech, Martin Luther King weekend came out, we have a family chat, as a lot of people do, I'm sure, a family chat where your kids are chatting, texting. And my 14-year-old daughter literally texted the family chat and said, this lady is on TV calling mom and dad racist. Like, does she know them? And that was the first thing, the conversation in our family. We're the last people that you would call racist. And so, I had a lot of community outreach from that.
Okay, before I even go any further with that, Fanny knew this woman. Fanny knew her husband, her children. Well, her children may not remember her, but she was out there calling them racist, because I was like, I thought things got a little bit better down there in Georgia. That's what I was sitting there thinking. But no, Fanny knew this woman, and she's out there calling her liars. I mean, she called her liar from one side of the street down to the other, calling her a racist, going out to the community saying, Ashleigh, well, she didn't say Ashleigh Merchant, but these people are racist. They're going after a Black man. I'm not going to say anything negative about a Black man. No, but then she turned around and talked about it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The levels, I don't even know where to put Fanny as far as her and what type of box or classification of foolishness and a terrible person that I don't know what to do. I mean, she and Nathan, but I'm going to put it on her because she's the state, okay, when it comes to her position. I'm sorry, I'm going to try very hard not to interrupt. Because the first time when I spent a lot of time yelling at my computer. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, computer. I didn't mean to put that all on you. I'm sorry, but let me get back to this.
A lot of people from the community said, you know, I can't believe that. That's not who you are. You know, that's such a far stretch from the truth. So that was surprising. You know, there's folks out there that maybe could be called racist, but we're not one of them. So that was really surprising, particularly since she knows me and she's known me for so long.
Mm-hmm. We have a little bit of those church remarks. Let's take a listen.
Oh, Lord.
Why does Commissioner Thorne and so many others question my decision in a special counsel? I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do, paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked one. First thing they say, oh, she gonna play the race card now. But no, God, isn't it them who's playing the race card when they only question one? Why are they so surprised that a diverse team that I assembled, your child, can accomplish extraordinary things? God, wasn't it them that attacked this lawyer of impeccable credentials? How come God, the same Black man I hired, was acceptable when a Republican in another county hired him and paid him twice the rate? Oh, y'all ain't hear me. Why is the white male Republican?
Okay, I'm sorry. Fanny. Oh my goodness. I said, you know, look, I'm sorry. I said I was gonna, this is outrageous. I forgot about this part. Keep in mind that Sonia Allen was in Cobb County and she was in a similar position as Fanny. And Nathan had a mutual relationship. Please put an S in front of it and don't inbox me saying why you say that. The algorithm. I'm sorry. Nathan was in Cobb County and he was asked to come and investigate as a special prosecutor or whatever, as he's doing now. He was paid $500 an hour and he had a mutual relationship with Sonia Allen. Same as Fanny. Oh, the same thing. In my previous video, I said that Nathan Wade is a gigolo. Yes, a gigolo with a straight gigolo. He got paid for his services. But while he was in Cobb County investigating the people that were terminating in jail, he was investigating all that. And when they asked him for the paperwork, the report, he said, it's in my head. He was there for 2 years, about 2 years, and he was getting. And then Fanny has a nerve to sit there and say, well, this Black man, and he was getting paid. No. Everyone there was getting paid the proper amount, but you paid Nathan $250 an hour and plus exorbitant amounts, crazy amounts, $35,000 for 1 month. Oh my goodness. You did I'm trying not to get angry. Forgive me. Oh my goodness. This does not look good. I do apologize. I am just too angry. And then she has to throw race in it and then sexism in it and all these other isms when she's the one who's doing it. And what really makes me angry is you have Black women co-signing, and you ought to see some of the things what they say to me. Oh, well, you ought to be down with Fanny. You know, she's under attack. No, she's a liar. She had a nerve to go to the church and lie in God's house, lying to all the people, committing adultery and a whole other sins by saying that God told her to do it. No, it was a damn devil. I digress. I'm sorry. Let me go back. Lord have mercy.
Republicans' judgment good enough, but the Black female Democrats not.
So those are the remarks to which you were referring, impugning not only you, but your client too. I mean, that's what the judge really had a problem with. And this guy's freedom is potentially in her hands, and she's making it a personal beef with him about race because you filed a motion to disqualify her.
Right. There's so much there in that clip that you just played. There's so many different issues. The one that, you know, when I first heard it, I said, well, she's lying. And you would think if you're going on a church pulpit that you know is going to be broadcast. I mean, this is essentially her first public remarks after my motion was filed, and she doesn't tell the truth. The third person on this case did not make the same rate as the others. And, you know, that's the first thing that stuck out to me. I mean, facts matter, words matter, the truth matters, and that was patently false. So, you know, especially since I was, you know, called a liar so many times and things that I said was patently false. If I'm going to get on national TV and talk in a church to God, I'm going to make sure that I've got the facts right. And John Floyd, the third prosecutor on this case, is not paid the same rate as the others. Plus, the work is very different. And I've analyzed this. I've lived with this for almost 6 months. So I know these records like the back of my hand. You've got 3 different prosecutors billing very different amounts, doing very different work. Nathan Wade bills sitting there. So he's bills sitting in court watching John Floyd or Anna Cross do work. They don't bill sitting watching him do work. So that was one big distinction. Second, they're not sleeping with her. So that's a big distinction. Third, they're not all being paid the same rate. And fourth, their qualifications are extremely different. I have known all 3 of them for the better part of 20 years. And so, you know, race doesn't play into any of those factors. And so all of those things were left out of it. So that was the first takeaway I got from that church speech.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking I'm gonna start cutting carbs. I need to drop my belly fat.
If you want to drop.
What?
Before we even go any further, let me just go ahead and put this out because I am just Anna Cross and the other gentleman were getting paid from the state. They were getting paid, what, $50 an hour? And he's getting paid $250 an hour. You can't make that stuff up. You can't make it up. Oh, my goodness.
There are a lot of people watching this right now who are feeling incensed. They see how political she is. Well, she tried to play the race card. We expect this to keep going as this prosecution keeps on. And they're feeling kind of bummed out, Ashleigh. I've heard from a lot of them since the judge's ruling. I'm sure you are too. But how do you see the import of what happened here? You know, you finding this story, moving to disqualify, the evidentiary hearing, like where are we today versus January 1st before you'd filed any of this?
I love that question because that's what I think about often. Before we filed this, none of this was known to the world. So there was a small group of us that knew this, but the world didn't know this. And so, you know, there was a very different image of this prosecution and a very different image of the DA's office. And, you know, one of the things that Ms. Willis has always run on is transparency. And that is one of the guiding principles that I practice by is transparency. I'm very transparent, which is, you know, I'm a defense lawyer, so I don't have to be transparent, but I am, and I believe in transparency. And so, you know, bringing this to the public and bringing this to the court was very important to me. So if you look at where we were at the beginning of January, nobody knew when I filed this that they were actually having an affair and that he had taken her on all of these lavish vacations. When we filed the motion, everybody said, oh, well, she doesn't have proof. She didn't put proof in the motion, you know, which is typical. And it was hard because the motion's pending, so I can't really speak publicly about it. But, you know, that's how we file motions. You know, proof comes in the actual evidentiary hearing. So we have to allege enough to get an evidentiary hearing, and then we actually put the facts up. So, you know, that was difficult. then when she gave this church speech, I didn't know how she was going to respond. Is she going to admit to it? Is she going to deny it? Is she going to step aside? What's going to happen? But then she admitted to it. And so then it became an issue of when it started, which before I filed the motion, that wasn't even an issue. It's sort of like we switched the focus from all of the conduct to when it started. And I go back to the original motion. I don't know that it necessarily matters when it started. I still think that it reaches the standard of impropriety that requires her to disqualify. I don't know. I mean, we spent a lot of time fighting over when the actual affair started, but I've never thought that was a big issue. I mean, definitely it's more damning if it started before she hired him, but they renewed the contracts 3 times. So, they were definitely undisputed in a relationship when she renewed these contracts. And the contracts kept getting for more and more money. I also think that if you hide things you're doing, that usually is an indication that they're not something you should be doing. And people hide things for different reasons. But when you're a public official and you know that your life is going to be scrutinized, you have to be extra cautious. I've never been a public official. I don't have a desire to be a public official, but if you are a public official, you've got to keep records of things. Why you would pay cash to a man that you are sleeping with, and you are also paying in what is undisputedly one of the largest criminal cases in our legal history, is beyond me. And so I think the public is right to question how this is allowed to go on.
It's absolutely reckless at a minimum. We know she did that. So why doesn't bouncing him off of the case cure it?
That was never what I imagined happening, because there is law in Georgia that says if one person in the case is bad, the whole case is bad. So, and we saw that with pre-indictment with Burt Jones, who is our lieutenant governor in Georgia, and Miss Willis and her whole office had a conflict. She had the conflict, but the judge in that case, a different judge, Judge McBurney, kicked the entire office. And the law that he followed said if she's got a conflict, the whole office has a conflict. So in my opinion, that's what the law says. It says if Mr. Wade has a conflict, the whole office has a conflict. And I do think the judge in his order was telling her you should step aside. But obviously that's not going to happen. He just wasn't willing to take that next step and say you have to step aside. But I don't think that you could split the baby like this. I've never thought that you could split the baby. I thought it was all or nothing.
I know you're in a tough position because you now have a criminal case in front of Judge McAfee that you have to try, presumably all the way to conclusion. So he's your judge and you have to be respectful, and I get it. I've been there. However, what do you think his motivation was in ruling the way he did? Because we've had a lot of people, our audience, and we've had experts come on the show to say this was political. He's running for re-election. The district went 73% for Joe Biden, and there was no world in which this judge was going to get reelected if he bounced Fani Willis off this case. What do you think?
I don't even have to answer that just to this judge. I can answer that to judges in general. If they have the choice of not deciding, that's what they do. Wow. And that just tends to be, what happens. If they can push it back on the parties to make the decision, that's commonly what happens. And I think that's what we saw here. We saw the safe play. We saw, okay, well, it's bad, but I'm putting it back on you to do. I'm putting it back on you, Miss Willis, to make the tough decision. Either you go, he goes, or I invite you both to go, is how I read the order, hoping that.
Okay, hold on for a second. Now, I thought that right there was wow. Okay. Judge McAfee was elected. Now, he was elected in a county that is majority Black, into Atlanta and all other surrounding cities and towns. And he's like, okay, if I do what I'm really supposed to do, and that is get rid of her, how am I going to be able to go and say, hey, elect me? Well, you went ahead and you got rid of her. Especially people who don't really care too much about politics, but what they are is a Democrat, and that is it. And that's all I know, Democrat or Republican. So, okay, let me go ahead and let it go back.
that she would do the right thing. And we see that a lot. We see that with judges a lot. That's the safest route to take, to split the baby. And that's very common. And it's, most of the time that is justice, to be able to, make the parties figure it out on their own. But as we've seen in this case, that's not going to happen. She, for some reason, very, very much wants to continue on this case. Which is surprising. I can tell you in 20 years of practice, I've never once seen a DA who had a motion to disqualify not voluntarily disqualify, if there were any grounds. Never,
wow.
Never. I've had it happen a couple of times, which is how I know the process, for another district attorney to be appointed. Anytime someone has said you've got a conflict and you need to be disqualified, the prosecutor's office is like, okay, bye. Like, because it's less work for them, and why be fighting that the entire prosecution? Why be trying to prosecute?
What you answer the question, because to me it seems clear she wants to be a star.
No.
She's using this case to make herself a celebrity.
100%. Her office found, and this was one of the details that kind of got lost in the mix, because it didn't have a ton of relevancy to our motion, so we couldn't focus on it. But she used $10,000 of taxpayer money to hire a media monitoring company. It's called Critical Mention. That's that. When I saw that, it was, and the emails that are attached to it, they're clearly looking to put a dollar value on her publicity. And there's only one reason for that. She wants to do something further politically. That was just so obvious to me. And if I don't live in Fulton County, I live in an adjoining county, thank goodness, because if 10,000 of my tax dollars went to a district attorney paying to monitor her own media, I would be absolutely livid, particularly in Fulton County, where it is a third world country in that jail. It is awful. There's just so many problems in that county. And I used to live in Fulton County.
It's like there's a simple way of monitoring your media mentions, and you just put a Google alert on yourself. I don't recommend it. It's very depressing, but if she really wants to see the coverage of her name out there, she can do that. You don't need to spend taxpayer, $10,000 in order to find out what people are saying about you. She clearly is using it. And those comments that we just played just show it. She went to that women's event thing and got a heroine's welcome. And then they replayed, I'll show you on Friday after Judge McAfee's ruling, which allowed her to remain on the case. That same group put out this video celebrating her like she's the second coming. Here, let's watch some of it. It's just video, but in any event, you can see they're celebrating her. They're playing Beyonce. That look, Fulton County elected her, and I don't know, is there, she keeps playing the race card, so I'll ask you whether it's relevant. Is it a racial thing? I imagine Fulton County is predominantly minority. Is she trying to tap into some sort of racial grievance there by continuously bringing this up?
I think so. And I think it's important to look at the history of her office. She's a new prosecutor, but her first big case was the YSL case, which is it's a racketeering case against a rapper named Young Thug. That case is still pending. That case actually divided the community in Fulton County a lot, because she used rap lyrics and is still using rap lyrics and took the stance of using rap lyrics against those gentlemen who were charged in that case. And that was a very controversial decision in the Black community in Atlanta. And so I feel like part of this is her politically trying to regain that community that might have not been happy about what happened in the YSL case. So I definitely think it's political, and I think she's got higher political ambitions, which, surprised me. I knew her when I was a public defender and she was a line DA. It surprised me because how there's moments that you remember in your career where someone said something to you and it's sort of profound and it sticks with you. I have one of those with her. This was probably 15 years ago. I was a young public defender. She was a young prosecutor, and I had filed a motion on a double jeopardy, and I won on appeal. And I was still kind of unsure of myself and, felt bad shaking things up. And she said, don't ever feel bad about defending your client, because if you don't defend your client and you don't do everything that you need to do, my convictions won't stand and I can't do my job. And I said, that's a really good perspective. And I've always viewed it that way. So, being attacked, and these attacks have been personal, being attacked was sort of surprising to me, because
I could only imagine the levels of hurt that Ashleigh feels based on not only what she said, but they have been friends, not only colleagues and fellow lawyers, but also friends outside of work. And that Fanny is falling down fast. She's crashing and burning, and she's burning bridges as she's falling. And those of us who have been in a position like that, it's heartbreaking. It is. And this is not about, a black-white thing. This is just simply about a human thing. And what Fanny is using any and everything humanly possible to stay afloat, because there's a lot on the line, and she made poor decisions by doing what she did. But I'm going to leave that alone. But I just wanted to put that in there.
Because all I'm doing is defending my client, and she knows me and knows that I'm not racially motivated, knows that I'm not, biased against women or anything like that. So it is kind of surprising.
And not biased against Nathan Wade. I mean, they pointed out in their opposition to your motion that you campaigned for him, I guess, when he was running for judge, but you had supported him. Obviously, if his race or status as a man were a problem for you, you wouldn't have done that. I didn't think that inured against you. I thought it was the opposite. But of course, she's enjoying trying to lead people to believe that because it helps her. It's a low blow, and we've watched it. All right, I want to ask you some questions about the hearing, if you don't mind, because we all watched it. I only watch your hearing and your case from the Caribbean because I was at a different vacation over President's Day. Yeah, actually, it's been a very nice turn for us this past couple of months. It was freezing in Connecticut. Anyway, there we sat in the Bahamas, and I listened to this whole thing, and I watched every minute of it. And I had a couple of key questions. I'm amazed that the judge completely dismissed Robin Yurty, who didn't want to be there. If I wanted to sink Fannie Willis because she forced me out of the DA's office, as Fannie alleged, I would have come running to your courtroom. I would have said, Ms. Merchant, how can I help you? I can't wait to sink her. She's terrible. But you had to subpoena her. You pointed out she was terrified to get up there. When she actually was forced to testify, she was very laconic, very short answers. She was not volunteering anything. And I found her very credible. The judge said, I'm paraphrasing, but it wasn't filled out. Her testimony wasn't filled out. Right. I can understand that criticism because I too wanted her to offer more detail. I wanted to hear a narrative answer. Right. So what are your thoughts on him dismissing her testimony and how her testimony went?
I was surprised that he dismissed her because I thought she was by far the most credible witness that took the stand. And I was disappointed because I could have made it more flowery, gone into salacious details about what she had seen them with.
That's what we wanted.
Right. And it's crazy because I was under attack for doing that. So, I'm getting right to the facts. I'm bringing a witness. And that's just kind of my style in court. I'm one of those people where I don't, and it's from trying jury cases. I try not to waste jurors' time, so I get to the meat of it and then I get out. And that's just my style. But with Robin, she was very hesitant to come forward. She had a lawyer. I think all of this context is important. She had a lawyer who filed a motion to quash and relitigated that right before she testified. That lawyer, who is a very pleasant and wonderful person, is a Fannie Willis supporter. So, you've got all of the lawyers that did these motions to quash, you see their names on her campaign flyers regularly. So, Robin Yurty hired a lawyer who is literally on Fannie Willis's campaign flyers as a supporter, trying to keep Robin Yurty off the stand. Wow. Robin didn't have a beef to come. She didn't want to be a part of it. She always said, I'll tell the truth. But the other thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that hesitant witnesses will not talk to the defense out of court. So, my interactions with her were through her lawyer and, somewhat limited. So I don't have the ability when someone doesn't want to come and testify for me to get all of these flowery details. I got what I needed from her. And she was unequivocal. There was no doubt in her mind, and she was her best friend.
Yeah, she said no doubt. Okay, he said it ultimately. In addition, while the testimony of Robin Yurty raised doubts about the state's assertions, raised doubts. It ultimately lacked context and detail. And then he went on to say, but even after considering the proffered cell phone testimony from defendant Trump, along with the entirety of the other evidence, neither side was able to conclusively establish by a preponderance of the evidence when the relationship evolved into a romantic one. I mean, that's just, with respect to the judge, that's the biggest lie in this opinion. That's the biggest lie that he wrote. That's just not true. Neither side was able to conclusively establish. And there's a little trick there. There's a trick, like a sleight of hand, conclusively established by a preponderance of the evidence. Which is it? That's almost holding you to two different standards there. The correct one is preponderance, 51% more likely than not. And he wants conclusive 51%. You absolutely got there. This is the only mention of Yurti or the cell phone records, which show him at her house overnight. So what was he doing there?
Right. And Yurti, there wasn't really any motive to lie. So she didn't work for the DA's office anymore. She has her own career. This wasn't like she'd been there 20 years and was fired. I mean, she had literally come on to work for her best friend to help her with media. And then they just had a disagreement and she was demoted. And so she left. It wasn't like this was this huge, blowout between them.
Everyone's saying disgruntled. The left-wing media you saw, disgruntled.
She wasn't disgruntled. She didn't look disgruntled. She didn't want to be there. But, a lot of that was she doesn't like my client and doesn't like our side, so she told me, she's like, I don't want to help you. And a lot of the witnesses were like that. A lot of them did not want to help me, did not want to help my side. And so, I have to talk to them and say, but the truth is the truth. You have to tell the truth. That's what you've got to do. And that's what I kept telling her, despite her not wanting to help my side. She said, I'll tell the truth.
That's amazing. I see your point that you did get hit and Fani Willis hit you for, probing the details of her personal life. And yet here you decide discretion is the better part of valor. Like there's no reason to get into the really salacious details. And it gets held against you. I wondered if in the moment, since she was a hostile witness to you, she was there under protest, sometimes as the lawyer, you're like, I've got my admission. I'm just going to move on because I actually don't know what I'm going to get if I push more. I don't want to screw up my record.
Right. That's true. And, there's a lot more that Robin Yurti wants to say that was not relevant to this case. And so I was trying very hard to not, it's ironic. I was trying very hard to not turn it into a circus because she's got different issues with Miss Willis's office and her prosecution of other cases.
Isn't she a whistleblower and something else?
She has somewhat, she's not one of, as far as I know, she's not one of the named whistleblowers that's actually, testifying or anything like that. But she is to a certain extent. And, that stuff wasn't relevant to my case. And so I was trying very hard to just stay focused on the relevant issues in my case, which is why we didn't go into all the flowery details and things like that.
Do you think at some point Robin Yurti might sit down with somebody, let's hope it's me, and actually just tell the story? I mean, there's nothing prohibiting her from telling the story other than what? The threat of Fani Willis or the threat of helping Trump?
I think Fani Willis is very powerful in the Atlanta area. And I think just from talking to a lot of witnesses, they did not want the scrutiny. They didn't want what happened to me to happen to them. They just don't want that. And as you see, it's very easy to charge someone in a criminal case, and I'm not commenting on this case in particular, but everybody knows, you can indict a ham sandwich. And so the person that you don't want to get in crosshairs with is arguably the highest ranking law enforcement officer as an attorney, in the state past the attorney general. I mean, Fulton County is the largest jurisdiction we have. So I think it's reasonable that people don't want to get in her crosshairs. And I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, that's scary. Well, of course, that's the perfect lead into Terrence Bradley. OMG. What? I mean, okay, let's start at the beginning. I didn't realize until the hearing that he was the tip-off to you on the fact that this affair began. The way I had read your motion filed, I think January 6th, was it led me to believe somehow that maybe it was Nathan Wade's ex-wife, Joycelyn, or her lawyer who maybe gave you the heads up. But it turns out it was Terrence Bradley, Nathan's former law partner. And we've seen from those full text messages between you and Terrence Bradley, how helpful he wanted to be, how much he knew about the affair, how many leads he wanted you to follow. And then it was a 180 when he got on the stand. So tell us your experience with Terrence Bradley.
I'm still shocked when I look back at it, looking at him, but I could tell from his testimony, when he, by his eyes, and when he looked at me and said, I'm trying to save my law license. That was one of the only times he directly looked at me during his testimony. And I think that was him telling me, like, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to save my law license here. But it was disappointing because he came to me. And he knew, my role in the case. He knew that I represented one of the defendants in this case. He knew I represented Mr. Roman. And so he came to me and initiated this contact. But I know Terrence, and I knew Terrence. And, I very much like Terrence as a colleague, a professional colleague and a friend. Our kids have gone to school together. Like, it disappoints me greatly. I am surprised. I'm still surprised because I thought that he would tell the truth on the stand. We had many conversations. Those texts are just sort of a small snippet of it, a timeline, but there's many conversations. And I went and I pulled back my phone records, I'm like, am I crazy? Did I dream up all these phone calls? And so I pulled out my phone records and I'm like, nope, it follows exactly my timeline of all the times we talked about it. And I'm not the only person that he told about it. He told another lawyer in the case who represented Mr. Chesborough, told him about it, and told some other folks, as we've seen from some subsequent filings, a district attorney in Cobb County told her about it. So, I was very surprised by the privilege argument because I'd never heard that. I never heard that until Mr. Wade and his friend called, a friend of Mr. Bradley's. That was the first time I'd heard the word privilege.
Just to clarify for the audience, meaning that when Terrence Bradley got on the stand, he claimed everything he knew about Nathan Wade's affair with Fani Willis was privileged. And meanwhile, he'd been talking, he was like the town crier about it prior to the moment he actually took the stand. So there was a divergence there between his behavior and what he was claiming when he hit the stand. Keep going.
Right. And that's surprising because if it's privileged, then you know about it, So he's saying, oh, well, I didn't know it's speculation. Oh, but it's privileged. It's like when the privilege didn't work, we switched over to speculation. Which is it? It's confusing. But the thing with this privilege term, where it first came about, was when Nathan Wade actually called Terrence's best friend and, said, hey, remind him about his privilege. And so that was the first time that this whole, oh, wait, it's privilege sort of came in. And I think that's when he had that threat almost that, hey, I'm coming after your law license. And when Terrence took the stand and said, I'm trying.
Yeah, Nathan most definitely did. Nathan and Fani most definitely pulled a lot of stuff underneath to where Nathan's like, oh man, my law license. I'm sorry. Terrence like, my law license. I gotta feed my family. Oh man, this is wild.
Trying to protect my law license. That told me everything I needed. At that point I said, okay, I've got to switch. And I think you could even see my demeanor switch at that point from, hey, Terrence is my friend to Terrence is someone who lied to me and is lying on the stand.
Right. It was clear. I mean, it was clear to everybody that he was lying on the stand, including the judge. The judge put absolutely no weight on his testimony. And so he got what he wanted. Nathan Wade got what he wanted and getting him to shut up when it mattered. But the text messaging, I thought, was very damning, very damning. Why would he? I mean, he said absolutely that he knew when it had begun, that it had begun prior to when they had testified to on the stand, and that it had begun after she left the DA's office, as you point out, a line. I just want to line, not L-Y-I-N. DA, a line, L-I-N-E-D-A. She later, I would submit, became a lion DA, but in any event, so that was back in 19. So one of my audience members, I read their emails, Ashleigh, and one of them wanted me to ask you whether you wish in those text messages you had established the foundation for his personal knowledge, since that was what the judge said. He didn't see any foundation for it. Like, this could have been speculation by him. It could have just been like, yeah, I think they did. And we don't know how he knew or if he really knew at all.
Right. And I wish I had, because I talked to him about that in person and on the phone. When I filed the response, the second, not the first filing, but then they responded and said, okay, we were in a relationship, but it didn't start until after he was hired. Then I called Terrence, literally sitting at my desk in the same office, and said, okay, this is what they filed. I need to respond. Let's talk about it. And that's when he told me about like the garage door opener and things like that. And he explained things with sensory details, like I saw this and he told me about this. And that, those details, I wish I had captured in text, but at the time I didn't know that I needed to, because I didn't think that Terrence would ever, clam up and claim this privilege theory. Going back, I wish I had gotten a lot more details, but I didn't know I needed
them. So he
them,
gave them to you in person. Like, do you, sitting here today, do you have any doubt that he knows as a fact, he knows that they did begin the affair prior to when they claimed?
No doubt. I have no doubt that he told me details. And, as lawyers, we learn to get sensory details. One of our jobs, it's like we become sort of a lie detector test almost, that we can tell when people have sensory details, when they don't, and he was just telling me certain details. And, part of what we do is we try to match up facts. So he's telling me things early on, telling me about the Yurdi apartment, for example. He's explaining it in detail. And then when I finally find Miss Yurdi and I confirm the apartment, I'm like, okay, well, Terrence was telling the truth. All of those details match up. The same thing with when they met. Terrence told me about when they met at this conference, and then I went and subpoenaed the records from the conference and verified that he was speaking at that conference and she was in attendance at that conference. So, all of those details matched up from what he told me, which led me to believe he was credible.
Do you think your friendship with him is over?
I don't know. I haven't seen him since. I don't. One thing that's very important to me is to tell the truth, and so that's hard to get over. Tell the truth. And I feel also like I was sort of put in an uncomfortable position where I'm on essentially national TV being called a liar, by the state, and he's letting that happen. And so that's kind of hard to get over, because my credibility as a lawyer is the most important thing to me. If I'm not sure, or I don't, have credible basis for something, I'm not going to open my mouth, or I'm not going to allege it. There's a reason I waited so long to file this. I wanted to triple check things, so that's kind of disappointing. But there were a lot of people that said things in this case that were disappointing to me that I'm surprised by. And I think my friendships with them will forever be tarnished.
Well, that leads me to Nathan Wade and Fannie Willis. Do you believe they lied on the stand?
Yes. I definitely believe they lied on the stand. And
yeah,
I think
about a material fact.
Right. I think about a material fact. I think they had motivation. Nathan's testimony was just, I know it wasn't as salacious, but it was incredible.
Literally.
The long pauses. It was literally incredible. The long pauses. And, I went back and I reviewed it, and a lot of it was, he would not answer the question. And so I would ask again, and he still wouldn't answer the question. He was very vague. And I reading it, I'm like, oh, well, he's trying to make sure he doesn't lie on the stand. So, I'm not sure if he lied or just avoided the question, but there was a lot of avoiding the question. And then I'd have to ask it a third time, and they would argue asked and answered, and I would get, that would be sustained, and I'd have to move on. So there's a lot of questions that I actually didn't get an answer to. And that, to me,
I remember
that's very,
this. It was very frustrating. Do you feel the judge was protecting them?
It's one of those things where you're in it, you just get frustrated because how many times you're going to ask the same question and they're not going to give an answer. So, I was frustrated. I don't think I got an answer, but I don't think I was going to get an answer. And I think that's why the judge said, you need to move along, because when you ask something 3 times and they keep deflecting, you're clearly not going to get an answer. I think we would have been there for hours trying to nail down the answer.
But these were material questions and material matters that go right to the heart of disqualification. I can't believe that he let them get away with it. And my only thought at the time was, he knows. Like, he knows what the truth is. So he's not really letting them get away with it. This isn't a jury trial. The judge gets to make the decisions. And yet, in the end, he seemed to run cover for them. Look, I think he's a good judge. I like the guy, but I completely think he protected his own hide in this decision. He wants to remain a judge. And he was afraid, this is my judgment, of ticking off the voters in Fulton County. And so he found a way he could telegraph to all of us that he does know. He knows they lied. He knows this all is corrupt. And yet he gets to stay on the bench, and he wants us to be the problem of these 5 other entities. And I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. That's one of the questions I want to ask you. But before I get to that, Let's talk about Nathan Wade's resignation, because, you know, you're saying you believe he lied on the stand. I do too. And Fani Willis too. And so after the judge's order, one of them was forced to step down, and to no one's surprise, it was Nathan Wade. I wasn't surprised, at least, that she made him leave instead of herself. And he says in his letter, in part, okay, as directed by the order today, I hereby offer my resignation effective immediately. Although the court found that the defendants failed to meet their burden of proving that the district attorney acquired an actual conflict of interest, I am offering my resignation in the interest of democracy, in dedication to the American public, and to move this case forward as quickly as possible. Amazing to me, Ashleigh. He makes it sound like this is just, they won, but he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. It's another lie. He's forced off. He or she were forced off this case. It is not, quote, in the interests of democracy. It's pursuant to court order.
I know. And it goes along with this theme that you saw when they were testifying on the stand, particularly Ms. Willis, about, you know, my client's interests are contrary to democracy. You know, these are extrajudicial statements that are prejudicial. You know, your interests and mine should not, they're not in controversy. You know, we all want justice. And so him saying that it's contrary to democracy is just yet another dig against my client's right to a fair trial.
Yeah. And once again, a failure to acknowledge it was his own behavior that led to this decision. No responsibility has been taken whatsoever at all. I mean, even to this moment, he was forced off, and he doesn't even issue an apology for his terrible behavior or acknowledge the criticisms of the judge that he just outlined in that long, tweet that I reread that after I posted it. Nothing. Can you believe there's absolutely no responsibility taken by these two?
I mean, there still isn't. And it's shocking because the testimony didn't take any responsibility. All it did was try to flip it back on, you're the bad person, you're the liar. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, you've hid this. You've gone to great lengths to hide this from the public and from the court and from the county and from the taxpayers. You lied on your campaign disclosures or your, financial disclosures. There's county disclosures that say any gift over $100. And it doesn't say it has to be like an actual, money transaction. It can be something for a benefit, going on vacation, going out to dinner, getting a ride, whatever. You have to disclose it. You didn't disclose it. You clearly hid this. You didn't go to the county attorney. You didn't go to the Board of County Commissioners and say, hey, I'm going to pay him, $1 million. And I just want you guys to be okay with that. Or I want to let you know. Didn't do it.
Okay, I'm going to hold on to that right there. Now, oh, what a web we weave when we are deceiving. I don't quite remember the thing, but there is just so much there, so much. The interview goes on for another hour, and it's a lot that we have covered thus far. And just the fact that I mean, a lawyer said that these relationships have been destroyed. And the way lawyers are going to interact with each other will be different from here on out. That's what he said. And I thought that was quite a powerful statement, because all these people, Nathan Wade, Fani Willis, oh my goodness, Ashleigh Merchant, her husband, John Merchant, Boots, what's his name? Steven Sado. All of them are a community of lawyers. Even Anna Cross. All are a community of lawyers that have known each other, helping Nathan Wade to become a municipal judge, even helping Fani to become district attorney, and helping her also to become a municipal judge as well, because that's where Nathan Wade and Fani Willis met when they were municipal judges. All obliterated. For what? For greed, power, narcissism. I mean, just this alone, you're able to pick a whole lot out. I mean, just the deception. However, even looking at Judge Scott McAfee, I mean, he's like, look, I like what I do, and I would like to feed my children. So, just as Ashleigh Merchant said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rule like this, and hopefully that Fannie will do the right thing and step down. She should. Looking at Nathan Wade, he was told to step down. Fannie's like, oh no, I'm not going to step down, but I'm going to run for next for this election cycle. And I'm going to say it's about race. I'm going to say it's about sexism. I'm going to say it's about all these things. So hopefully I can muddy the waters enough. And this is what some people are saying. Other people are saying, oh, they're going after Fannie. They're going after Nathan Wade. These are Black people that are, moving up, and Ashleigh Merchant, she is a racist, and she's trying to, keep me from prosecuting Donald Trump. I'm going to prosecute him. Then you have these conservatives that are just jumping on me and trying to rip my life apart. They're going after just because Nathan and I are a couple. So they want to destroy that, They never went after anything what I did, because I said that in another video. They went after them on her having a relationship, the appearance of possible corruption, the appearance, not that she did, but there was an appearance of it, and that's why she should get off. They're doing it because of that. They're doing it, because of this. And on both sides, you have to look on both sides and just look at both and make your own mind up. What do you believe it is? Because I could sit here all day. Oh my goodness. I could sit here all day and just throw pebbles at Fannie, because she gives you so much to work with. A whole lot. Oh my goodness, I'm just so disgusted, me personally. But the evidence, both sides, you should look at. Now, Fannie has done some interviews, so I'm going to most definitely share that to give a balance. Oh man, this is horrible. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And it's like no one made a decision. Now, Scott McAfee, and I said this in a previous video, that the way he wrote his decision on why he's deciding, saying that, yeah, this doesn't look good. As far as what Fannie's doing here, her going on these vacations. I even showed you a receipt on my previous live stream. A receipt of, Nathan Wade's credit card, to where you see Ubers and flowers. His wife wasn't getting that. No, that went to Fannie. It's a big mess, a huge mess. And I have to say, well, no, I'm not going to say anything as far as what I think, which way it's going to go. That right there is an individual thing. You should just take the information and take it in, and which way you believe it is, then that's what it is. It's all about perception. Let me see. You're right. Samantha said Fannie was defensive in the state. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you ever heard of the term sapphire. Sapphire is an old term that Richard Pryor used and other comedians at his time and before. Would a woman put her hand on her hip and get, yeah. You're a liar, Ashleigh. All these, this here and this here, lies. Yeah. You would never believe in a million years that Ashleigh Merchant and Fannie Willis had been friends for almost 20 years that day. You would have never believed. You were like, what? They're friends? Friends? And just like I tried to get that saying, oh, what a web we weave when we try to deceive. That's right. And Fannie was trying to, in my opinion, was trying to deceive. And if you go after, and I thought her strategies were quite interesting. Now, keep in mind, Politics with Laura has $7.50 worth of law. But what I saw as far as Fannie Willis being on the witness stand, she was one way with what's her name? Oh my goodness. All these names all over the place. Ashleigh Merchant. She was one way with Ashleigh Merchant, but then she was another way with Alan Rice. Oh, why are you yelling at me? But here, oh, you're a liar, Ashleigh. You're a liar. Why are you yelling at me? You could talk to me. What a flip. Samantha says, I agree. She was visibly, anxious and, and bothered. She's on record. And, okay, Judge Joe Brown, he said something rather interesting. He said the reason why Fannie would answer a question the long way was because she was padding the record. I don't know if you remember on the first day when Fannie, the first day of the hearing, Fannie said, no, I have to keep the record. No, that record has to be straight. Got to keep in mind the record. We as regular people, record, whatever, yes, no. For them, they know that if you say yes and leave it as that, the attorneys can interpret that yes to the answer and make it any or everything, spin anything, because not all attorneys and not all lawyers are honest. They're going to say, I am going to win. I don't care if you're innocent. I truly don't care. But I need to win because if I don't win, I don't get paid. And as you saw what Ashleigh was saying, well, they were sitting there doing work, but Nathan was sitting there. He was watching them, and that was his work. But she also said in a previous interview to where she was saying, to the state assembly, she said, well, if you don't do certain things, you don't get paid. So if they were to stop, they don't get paid. The state, they don't get paid. So she has an interest to keep this going, because if they stop, they don't get paid. So they need to get a conviction to get paid. They need to put these motions in so they can get paid. So it goes on both sides. Both sides. That right there, both sides. Because if Ashleigh says, okay, I want this squashed, everything is done, money's done, I need another client. Well, what if you don't have any more clients lined up? That's it. You're like, this, okay, waiting for another client, looking for. But move that aside. But there's a lot there, a whole lot. Now, I already talked about the friendships being obliterated. That also filtered down to the families. That is heartbreaking, because Ashleigh's daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, is like, Mom, they're calling you a racist. And then she has to tell her daughter, I'm not a racist. Her daughter goes to school. Your mom's a racist. Your dad's a racist. Oh, you're evil. I mean, this goes on so many levels. Not to mention Judge Scott McCaffrey. I'm pretty sure he has children. He's what 35, 30? Poor guy. The way he ruled, he could probably be out in the street. You suck, McCaffrey. You didn't do your job, or you should have did this around his family. People have no off button. People are not looking at, okay, if I do this, when I ask you for your vote, you're not going to give it to me because you're still thinking politically, and I'm just simply applying the law. It has nothing to do with politics, but since my job requires a vote, this gets deep. Then you have Terrence Bradley, like, man, I got a call from my friend, which he said, my friend called me. Nathan called my friend. My friend called me. He's talking about your license. Terrence threatened. Nathan Wade threatened Terrence Bradley, his license. You better stop talking. And even though that he changed his testimony, and then he got up there and start lying, so it's like, okay. I can work a way out as far as the bar if anybody goes and files a complaint against me, because the Bar Association is not due to what lawyers say. You could do wild stuff, but if no one puts pen to paper, submit it, they're not going to do anything. They're like, as long as somebody complains. Nathan's like, I'm going to put pen to paper and I'm going after your law license because you have been a lawyer for X amount of years. You have no other skills. And I'm going to ruin you economically. Yes, I did all the things. Yes, Fannie and I got together. We're Bonnie and Clyde. We're taking it to the man. And she's paying me all this money. I'm getting all this money. She's paying me, and I'm going on trips, and we're doing this together. Taxpayers are paying for it. Now, the thing is this. One could say he earned that money, and how he chooses to spend his money is his business. And if he wants to take Fannie to Belize and Tahiti and drive up the coast, go to Martha Vineyard, go to California, heck, go to Tennessee, whatever it is, it's up to them. It's his money. Other set is, yeah, that is taxpayers' money, but however, she has to say, if I get anything over $100, I have to disclose that. Heck, I took money out of my retirement, $50,000 to run. I never reported that to the IRS. I mean, just a mess, a complete mess. I have to say, regardless of how you may feel about Megyn Kelly, you can say she's a racist. She's old. She's trying to do whatever she can do to keep her job because there are younger reporters coming in, younger lawyers coming out, and they're going to boot her off, and she's trying to be relevant and she's trying to have shock value, whatever. Say whatever. I heard a lot of people say a whole lot of things, positive and negative. She did a good job. I believe she did a good job, and given Ashleigh Merchant an opportunity to be able to explain a situation. And then Megyn Kelly, being a lawyer, she was able to extrapolate enough information because she knows behind the scenes what questions to ask to be able to get us to have a better understanding what happened behind the scenes. Because we're looking at Ashleigh like, man, Ashleigh, you were soft. I mean, you should have done this. You should have done. Well, no, there's protocols. So we can sit there and say, oh, well, you're a liar. You're a liar. That's good law. All right. That's good. No, that's not good. But based on all of that, I mean, I thought it was quite an interesting dare I say, outcome? Dare I say that? Oh my goodness. Oh man, I will say this election cycle is going to be extremely contentious, especially for the House of Representatives, a little bit for Senate. Just deviating just a little bit, just deviating just a little bit, still staying on topic. Fannie has even brought that attitude to the House of Representatives with Representative Jim Jordan, to where she pulled that same foolishness. But before I get into that, I got to show you this. I tried to show it earlier, but oh man, AOC. She's the gift that keeps on giving. Oh my goodness. Just bear with me for a second, please. Please, we need a little comedy here. Just a little bit of comedy. Just hold on.
Did you witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime?
Corruption statutes, RICO, and conspiracy.
What is it? What is the crime?
I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with.
RICO is not a crime. It is a category.
Wait a minute.
Earlier today.
Oh my goodness.
At Merrick, food is our love language.
Wait a minute. Oh Lord. Lord have mercy. You can't make this up. RICO is not a crime. Oh man, look. This is why it is so hard for me to talk about Republicans. I can't even talk about the wild stuff going on in Montana, because you got Democrats doing wild stuff up there. I can't even talk about Republicans because you got this wild stuff. Sir, RICO is not a crime. You can do, but then Donald Trump has been brought up on RICO charges, but according to AOC, it's not a crime. You can't make this up. Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. I got to give this one. Oh my goodness. This right, that one right there. Oh, it deserves it. Oh my goodness, I had to do that one. Oh my goodness. AOC, she never fails. She is the Amber Heard of politics, of silliness. But on that note, oh my goodness, on that note, please like, subscribe,